You are welcome to the Tuesday edition of Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us for the next 3 hours as we take you around Nigeria, exploring what's happening, what is yet to happen, what should have happened that hasn't happened, and what happened that should not have happened. My name is Olive MOD, and you're welcome to the show. We're streaming live on YouTube, News Central TV Live. If you'd like to drop your comment, we want to hear from you. We want to take your thoughts and your comments regarding any of the stories that we'll be looking at. I'll be handing over the microphone to the man who typically should match with me. He likes to match with me on TV. But this week, I don't know what's happening. Hello, Benga.
Hi, Olive, my fellow July-born and my fellow great mind, a woman of exceptional qualities and valor. And I have to celebrate your look today. I mean, this week, this is giving African queen.
Thank you.
It's what the French call au naturel.
Au natural.
My woman crush Tuesday, even though today is not Wednesday. I can't wait for Wednesday, but let me give it to you on Tuesday. And I can see Joe looking at me with so
much anger.
So much envy. Shopping for compliments. Don't worry, your own compliment will come one day. It's one day at a time. Let Olive enjoy a day in the sunlight.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Well, this show is not about Olive, and I hope my wife is not watching this morning. Because I have to repeat the same compliments to her.
No, you have to give her times 10, no, please.
Yes. But it's great to be here. This is the right place to start your day here on Breakfast Central. News Central Television will bring you a potpourri of all the big news happening, the latest developments as it has to do with our great country, Nigeria. And yes, a bit of humor here and there. Life is, like they say, life is not so hard. You should take some time off, and laughter is the best medicine when you can. My name is Benga Borowa. Welcome to the program. And I hand you over to the handsome Joe Hansen.
If I had the bell, I'll have rung the bell for him now.
No, please, nobody should touch it.
For you, antebellum.
It's antebellum. Exclusive. It's only
Joe, great to see you.
House Speaker and the rep. So I'm playing House Speaker, President and Speaker. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Joe.
Good morning,
the World Cup is over. It's back to serious business. I mean, we've always been doing this.
Yeah, the World Cup is over. The leagues are starting soon in August. We cannot wait for the league to start. Nigerians are looking for what they would, that would keep them busy. And
there's this reality show that's going to start soon. I don't know if it's a distraction. I remember the last electoral cycle, they were begging them to postpone it so that Nigerian youths can focus. I think people can multitask now. You can chew gum and work at the same time.
They would argue with you.
It's not much of a distraction.
So there are two different
elections happen during football season. People still go out to vote. So.
And you know why they ask? Is because for a long time, Nigerian youths can be easily distracted. Sometimes our attention span can be very... It's why in that Falls song, Najee, he's talking about you're dealing with real-life scenarios, but every day is a new TikTok or Insta challenge. Like this kind talent, na real pretend. I mean, this kind pretend, na real talent. So...
Well, while we're waking up this morning, just to announce that 8.05 billion, I didn't say million.
Billion.
I didn't say thousand. I said 8.05 billion has actually been budgeted to renovate and equip churches and mosques. The federal government has budgeted that, 8.5 billion.
For where?
To renovate churches and mosques.
Under what ministry?
And the funny thing is, anyway, we'll get into the story.
Anyway,
and just to mention again, if you have not filled your tank, the fuel prices have gone up this morning.
Yes,
why did you?
I don't believe in luck. I got so opportune that while I was driving, when I heard the stories, I was able to just oppose and said, you know what?
Put one or two together.
Even though your car, you started on Monday, because I got a full tank on Friday, Saturday. I just said, go and top it up. Lo and behold, I got it for 1,118 just this morning. Before I even got it yesterday, before I could get the fuel yesterday, almost all the filling stations stopped selling.
Yeah, I noticed.
Just this morning.
And they always know
how much?
When it's about to increase.
1,003.
1,280 naira.
That's almost, what's 1,280, 1,003? What's the difference?
By Friday, before Friday, we should be looking at 1,310, 1,315.
Honestly, all of these things that are happening is because of one man's ego. And it's unfortunate that it's throwing the world economy into a turmoil. this was very, very unnecessary. 17 of his own intelligence agencies said that Iran did not have the capability to develop a nuclear bomb. You just went there with Israel just to fulfill somebody's fantasy of endless wars and to make yourself rich through insider trading and to make your defense contractors get more money. And people's lives have been lost. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. And the rest of the world has to pay for your misadventure in Iran. It's very, very unfortunate. I hope sane heads will prevail and they end this nonsense that is happening. It's not just American and Iranian citizens that is affected. It's affecting the rest of the global economy. And look, it's too much. People are struggling. Incomes aren't going up. I wonder how people are meant to adjust to this new reality. And the price of fuel, especially in Nigeria, is tied to everything. Consumers will have to pay for it one way or the other because businesses is part of their energy costs. But anyway, let's get back.
Let's come back to our own reality. Even though what you exactly, that's what I was going to add. Even though what you said is our reality, but let's bring it back home. And just to mention that we're streaming live again, if you'd like to drop your comments. As we run through our wake-up conversations, we often would go to YouTube to take comments. We're streaming live via News Central TV Live. Let's tell you about what's happened in Jigawa State. The governor, Umar Namadi, made a surprise visit to the Civil Service Secretariat. Surprise. I was going to say that. Great minds, high five.
Hey, I'm not great minds, you know.
You're not part of us.
I'm not part of this.
Sorry. Okay.
All of us, we did it before now.
Actually, we're going to do it again. So yeah, the governor of Jigawa State made a surprise visit to the Secretariat. And what he found out has sparked serious concerns. Now, your guess is as good as mine. The governor walked through ministry after ministry only to discover locked doors, empty offices. Even the offices of the secretary to the state government, the head of service, accountant general were closed. Out of 18 commissioners
that are meant to be permanently there.
Exactly. Out of 18 commissioners, only the commissioner for works was on duty. The permanent secretaries of health and livestock development, exactly, work is working. Secretaries of Health and Livestock Development were also present, but the rest were nowhere to be found. Now, Governor Namadi expressed disappointment, describing the situation as unacceptable. He warned that his administration will not tolerate absenteeism, indiscipline, or misconduct in the civil service. Let's take a look at the video. We'll come back and we'll share our thoughts with you. There you have it, the video of the governor visiting civil servants. Civil servants have garnered a bad reputation in our country for a number of things, and this is chief of them, where you would argue that for a number of them, it's just almost like a decorated position. Whilst they're there, they have these offices, but they're receiving salary. Now, not all civil servants are like that. But
not all states are.
Yes, and not all states are like that. But that's not something that is new to our nation. But I'll have the gentlemen react first. And
what is most surprising is that this is happening on a Monday. So imagine what happens on Friday. When, you know, the weekend.
TGIF.
And they have to go for Friday prayers. I'm sure some of them don't even bother. It's a 4-day, it's probably a 4-day work week in Jigawa State. And kudos to Mr. Governor for doing this on-the-spot assessment. We saw it in Anambra State recently when Governor Chukwuma Soludo did something similar. But having said this, I mean, absenteeism is one of the, if you're in the corporate world and you don't show up to work for any valid reason, it's a very serious ground for termination of appointment. But you see civil servants violate it. They say, after all, we be government picking, you know, they think it's harmless. And poor citizens of Jigawa that have things to do or get some a form of permit or licenses or business with the Jigawa State Civil Service in Dutse would have to waste their precious time to keep coming back. I'll tell you, Oga is on seat. Oga is not on seat. Oga is probably watching Breakfast Central at home, sipping on coffee when he's meant to be at work. You can also watch Breakfast Central in your office.
Good plug-in.
Just install television there. But please, civil servants, do better. We're all doing our bit. I mean, Olive, Joe, and I, we show up every day, regardless of the circumstances.
Even in the flood, we swim to work.
Joe and Olive, they are presenters of particular concern because they are amphibians. And they still make it to work every day in this city of aquatic splendor. So I don't know what your excuse is in Jigawa. If Lagosian presenters can swim to work, what's your excuse?
But there's no flooding in Jigawa, as we speak.
So what's your excuse for not showing up to work?
Let's remind Nigerians that just a few months ago, the governor of Anambra State faced the same situation where he walked into the ministry and lo and behold, some seats were completely empty. It was a surprise visit from the governor. And upon getting there, if you recall what happened in Anambra State, some of the civil servants who got a whirlwind of his arrival tried as much as possible to call others to quickly come to work. But I remember that scene. I wish I had gotten that footage earlier on. Some of them, they stood outside. Those who could get there on time, but it was too late. The governor had already done a complete assessment of those who came to work and those who didn't come to work. And he kept asking, like, is this how you people used to do here? This is what you people do here. You don't come to work, and so on. I recall that footage, one person trying to explain that, it's like, and it was like, there's no need for you to explain anything. We're seeing the same thing happen in Jigawa. And guess what? It's not just in these two states that we've mentioned, Jigawa, Anambra. It cuts across Nigeria's civil service in terms of operation. That is synonymous with
even the federal civil service.
Exactly.
Okay.
And just to mention again, we've seen this trend happen happens regularly because you have a civil service that is not functional as it should be. I recall those days, if you talk about civil service, people will tell you, when you go there, you remember the processes. You want to register, you want to do anything under the civil service, go and sit down there. You have people gisting, you have, there's this family thing going on. Somebody's
selling crayfish.
Somebody's selling crayfish. They don't even watch movies. They just sit down there, they eat. They are eating amala, they are eating eba, they are eating fufu, whatever it is. And you ask yourself, okay, what's really going on here? Is this a civil service? But like they say, and like one of our guests who had joined us earlier said, the days of active civil service in Nigeria has to be looked into compared to what we see today.
Okay, so I'm going to take a slightly different standpoint, and I agree with everything that my colleagues have said. But to first mention that this is not the first time that Governor Umar Namadi has walked in on civil servants in Jigawa State. We've made reference, my colleagues have made reference to Anambra State and how this has happened in other parts of the country where governors will make unscheduled visits to the civil service and realize that these workers are not around. I'm looking at a news bulletin on the website of jigawastate.gov.ng, and I'm going to read. It's June 19, 2023. It says, Governor Umar Namadi has paid an unscheduled visit to Jigawa State Government Secretariat Complex to ascertain the punctuality of the state civil servants. Malam Umar Namadi noted with dismay the poor turnout of workers in their offices at the time of his visit. He described, he described civil servants as the major stakeholders in the development of the state and therefore emphasized the need for workers to rededicate themselves to duties so as to be able to make the state better. This is documented in the Jigawa State Executive Council notes. So the question is, if the governor had visited the civil service in 2023 and this happened, why is it happening again in 2026? It's happening again because actions do not have consequences in our country. If actions had consequences, if people knew that they are not coming to work, will mean that they are, so a huge chunk is yanked off their salary, or they are getting a warning, or they are getting, suspension, or they are getting a query, they will show up at work. I dare not just wake up and decide that I won't come to work. You might argue that this is a private institution, but the truth is that state agencies, government agencies should set an example for even the private institutions to follow, to emulate. And so, yes, whilst Gbenga applauds the governor for making this unscheduled visit and encouraging civil servants to work, the governor does also have some measure of responsibility, because if there were consequences the first time, there would not be a second time.
Olive, this is where I'd like to come back in terms of measure of responsibility. And you're right, there should be actions and consequences, because if there are no consequences, you won't have repeat offenders and see this type of behavior happen again. It's been 3 years since his last on-the-spot visit and assessment of civil servants with regards to absenteeism at work. Having said that, technology has developed. I remember 8 years ago when we were working.
We used to clock in.
We used to clock in.
Yes.
And, you can argue that when you're doing the manual signing in process, people can, you can sign for others, but you can also use biometrics. You can use your fingerprints to clock in and the attendance register, and you can monitor it wherever you are across the world. So until they adopt technology to, stop this from happening, it's enough of the talking and advice and, appealing to the emotions. It's time for technology, and the technology is available for, once you get to work, you put your fingerprints, it registers the time you came in, and no one can do it for you. If it was signing exercise books, what's the name of that long book?
I forgot to. I mean, we are old, though.
What technology does is, our fingerprints are unique to every individual, so no one can sign for you. So you have to be physically present to clock in, and it will reduce incidents of absenteeism.
I think what it just tells us is that at the federal level and at the state level, we are struggling with the most basic form of institutional oversight. So if we're seeing that we're not, actions don't have consequences, people are not showing up to work, if you do not put measures in place, it will happen again. I also have staff that work for me. If my staff decides that they are not coming to work, or they are coming late to work over and over again, and I do nothing about it, I have a responsibility in that area to understand that I did not put firm boundaries to ensure that they know where not to step to and where not to step out of. But
reminds me of a staff of mine that said he was going for mountain to pray. When we had important work, I just said, brother, just remain on that mountain. Glory mountain here forever. Don't bother coming back.
I need to read this comment on YouTube.
As a Moses now. As Moses that you are.
Stay on the mountain, because they give really ridiculous explanations. I want to read this comment on YouTube. We'll take more on YouTube later, then we can head to X. But this one is very important, because almost every Nigerian that has interacted with the civil service can understand this comment. Mr. Johnson says, Olive, the funny thing is that here in Lagos, there are people who purposely look for a job in Alausa or even bribe to get work there because they believe you can be working in Alausa and still be doing another 24-hour job elsewhere. Absolutely. They can run both at the same time. They can run other businesses physically while still earning payments from Alausa. This is not a secret. He goes on to say, I wanted to sign one of my documents, and this is the main point I wanted to highlight. I wanted to sign one of my documents there, and the person that was supposed to sign was not on seat around 8:30 a.m. I was told to wait. Olive, the woman didn't later show up for the whole day. I was told she would be in office on Tuesday. Mind you, I went there on Monday. These guys are ghost workers to me.
Imagine the cost of...
The cost of you running generator.
No.
Imagine for people that want... Even we see it in people that want to, that come from abroad. You have you have processes, you have documents you want to work through. You have a short deadline. You say to yourself, oh, I have just 3 or 4 days in Nigeria. I need to get this, and this done. I laugh.
Don't plan your... Let's see what X.
This attitude is worldwide. Nigerian missions and embassies, this is how they behave.
Yeah. So it's a culture problem.
It's the same thing. I remember a friend having that same issue in New York. It's almost the same thing, quite similar. But let's see what Nigerians are saying on X very quickly and get to read from them. On X, quickly, this one says, laugh. I served here during my NYSC. All they do is come and share money at the end of the month. Use copper like 3x3 spanner without giving one kobo. Some people that have no resources, yet they do Sharia and destroy alcohol products and then wait for federal to send them allocation gotten from alcohol and co. Okay, I get your point. You really are not happy with the development. As long as resource allocation continues to be distributed on a predetermined monthly basis without a meaningful link to productivity and performance, outcomes like these are likely to persist across the states. And I think I'm starting to get the issue of resource allocation. They are as good as the governor. Don't blame them too much. Blame the system that brought in governors whom are not productive in managing their state resources. So says Tribunal Boss calls himself. Pretty much, another one, only in Nigeria is where you see the governor having to show eye service, go around and mark the register of office parastatals. The state budget includes department heads, managers, permanent secretaries, advisors, power brokers, yet none of them can provide a report in this day and age of digital technology to the office of the government of the state. We have seen this movie several times over the last few decades. Spoiler alert, nothing go happen. Now today, he says.
Okay.
As a student of history, what happened in 2023?
This one says, no need for audio manual inspection. Add a thumbprint scanner at the gate for entry and exit.
Can I respond to this tweet on this particular one? I want to respond to it with a comment on YouTube.
Okay. On
YouTube, Osasa said, can we really blame the workers? There are no jobs. If there were, then the lack of job will show. Technology will reduce some of these things, clocking, assigning specific jobs to the workers, or even reducing the workforce. The more reasons why government should encourage the private sector. Now, in response to that comment on YouTube, as well as this one they just read on X, Nigerian says, even with technology, they will come and sign in and leave. The governor should go back there today. He will still meet empty seats and offices. Now, in defense of the civil servants, Michael Zeus says, Olive and Co. Civil servants are paid peanuts, hence they arrange among themselves on the days to be in the office. But up north, especially at local government level, there are farmers who show up when allocation arrives. Then Ogenetega says, let me differ a bit. There is usually a gentleman agreement to do a form of a shift to manage economic hardship. You come today, I come tomorrow. This is not holding for them anyways. So is there maybe an argument to why this might be happening?
The economic realities, but if somebody is going to start sitting for you, then the person should be able to carry out the same functions. But what we see is the total dereliction of policy. There's nobody there.
Whether we like it or not, this will continue. It has always been in existence. It will continue. Let's just leave.
And to be sure, I've
moved to another story.
Yeah, just to add to that, I've always been pro. If the work can be done from home, let the work be done from home. They don't always have to show up physically. No, however, the problem is people don't know how to take such liberties. They always end up abusing it.
That's why in the abroad, if you're working, the camera is on. You put your camera on. You don't answer your calls. They're watching you from home because you have to sit down there. So your camera
and your laptop stuff is given to you by your office so that they can be tracking.
We're working at home now. And it's time for Olive's contribution. Olive will now tell us, guys, please, let me just quickly fry this egg. Oh, could possible now.
Could possible. It's not possible. Let's move on now to our next story very quickly. We had said it earlier, but let's mention it again. The federal government has come under the following revelations that 8.05 billion naira has been earmarked for the construction, renovation, and equipping of churches and mosques in the 2026 budget. The allocation uncovered by Public Accountability Organization Tracker shows that 1.91 billion was set aside for 7 church-related projects. Take note, 7 church-related projects, 1.91 billion naira, while 6.14 billion naira was budgeted for 52 mosque projects across the country. The budget includes funding for the construction and renovation of worship centers, solar power installations, all right, musical equipment for churches, carpets, Islamia schools, imam houses, and other.
Can we pause this thing on the screen?
Some of the projects are assigned to government agencies whose mandates are unrelated.
Exactly. Look at it.
Unrelated to religious affairs. A development that has raised concerns over transparency and budget implementation. The disclosure has sparked widespread criticism, coming at a time Nigeria is battling a widening fiscal deficit, rising public debt, inflation, and funding shortages in sectors such as healthcare, education, roads, and water supply. Also, don't forget to add the excessive borrowing that has seen Nigeria borrow more than it has ever borrowed before.
Joe, let's look at what is on the screen.
Wow.
So let me give an example here. You can see them. Construction of churches, mosques, and financial support to religious leaders in Balanga, Bilri Federal Constituency, Gombe. And this is to the tune of 350 million naira. Please tell me what agency, National Agricultural Land Development Authority, what has that got to do with construction of churches, mosques? Hey, God.
What happened to the Oronsanye report that we should reduce the size of agencies and government?
So what happened to the committee that was set up by the government, by the presidency, to implement the Oronsanye report from way back, and they were given 3 months, 12 weeks to implement that report?
I'm trying to understand the...
Wait, do Nigerians understand
the idea behind this?
Do we understand the implication?
Maybe that's why we should lay the facts down.
So it means that the PFICP, am I right?
Yes.
Is it PFICP?
Yes, PFIPC.
Yes.
Look, sorry, just can we take a look at this one?
Let's hold on.
Renovation of mosque and provision of mini grids in Zamfara Central Senatorial District, Zamfara. Ongoing, 280 million. Agency, Federal Cooperative College, Kaduna.
What concerns
Ministry. Please, what concerns Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security with provision of mini grid? Grid.
Is that not supposed to be under the purview of the Ministry of Power? For mosque. Okay, let's move on. Renovation of Central Mosque, Mina. Paiko Central Mosque and provision of carpets. Carpets! I'm sorry. Joe, take it easy. Breathe. Ongoing, 280 million. Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, headquarters. Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. Next one, construction of Safed Town 5th Jumaite Mosque is... Okay, provision of solar lights in mosque, graveyards. Did you see that?
Graveyards.
Did you guys see that?
Yeah, so that the ghosts can see road while they are walking at night.
Yards in Zamfara Central Senatorial District, Zamfara State. Ongoing, 210 million. Federal, who is handling it? The agency, Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security.
So,
hold on, how does food security have, what's the business with food security and graveyard?
Then also now between themselves, religious institution, Northern Christian Association has now demanded a separate explanation because according to, if you see a lot of these things, you see mosque, before you see one church.
My religion
so it's now ratio.
Getting more than this.
Exactly.
In all of this.
So in all of this, so there is now a ratio of 3-to-1 mosque to church funding disparity.
Who is speaking for the African traditional religious?
That one.
And I'm wondering why you're not speaking for them.
No, I'm speaking for them now.
Where's the wine?
Exactly. Where are the years and wines and the adherents of African traditional religion? Why are they left out of this? If we're going to be very religious as a country, I mean, this is
what is going on?
Joe said it in the beginning when we started this story. You are at the time where you're borrowing at an alarming level, when there are serious institutional deficiencies in education, in healthcare, and so many more important projects to look at. This is what.
So just to add, if there's any slight
the separation of religion and state.
Yes, if there's any slight defense I may give, if at all, but it doesn't really hold water, is that some of these churches and mosques serve the wider community. So some of them have infrastructure that serves the community. So in a way, sometimes the government supports these religious institutions to be able to provide these infrastructure that doesn't just serve the church as an institution, but serves the community because the churches and the mosques serve as focal points for the community.
So
that being said,
taking care of.
Don't establish any ministry.
So that being said,
that's what you want to do.
Don't establish. We have duplicity.
That being said, this then goes back to, again, there's a lack of transparency, and the president has not yet responded to this. We're waiting to see their response.
Anyway, but my own defense would be that prayer is the master key. So you can spend any amount. Their prayer is working. They will tell you that Nigeria would have been worse than this if it's not because of those.
We need to celebrate. We need to separate.
I'm going to back you on that statement because, surprisingly, and as painful and as saddening as this looks, you would have people that will tell you, "Oh yes, God is doing it."
That
God has moved the current administration to empower.
Can't you see people now fighting that this mosque are getting more than church?
So the question in all of this is not the first time that budget and tracker has spotted some irregularity in the budget. But why do we keep seeing this? Why do we have this repeated pattern? Is there going to be an explanation from the presidency regarding this? But also, you know, just to mention that we need to come to a point where we completely separate religion from politics. Completely. And it's not just in terms of this budget and funding, it's in terms of even spiritual pilgrimage. People want to go to Jerusalem, let them go from their pocket. If you want to go to Mecca, you go from your pocket. I've never understood the concept of us creating ministries to be able to fund people to go and sponsor their own
billions,
their own beliefs.
Education.
If you want to go, it's between you and your God.
It's a private affair.
Education is, look at,
we have record out-of-school kids.
No hospitals.
Even in that ministry, there are Almajiri ministry and out-of-school kids. There are allocations for them that have been taken to fix roads that are not related to what they're doing.
They are not fixed the roads.
It's terrible.
All right.
You know what? I think leaders and senators should bring the 2027 budget now. Let's start screening it, because at the end of the day, it's just a ceremony.
It feels like copy and paste.
It's copy and paste. And we still end up with all of these dubious line items.
I will not agree with they should bring 2027. I think they should not bring any budget again.
Because it's an exercise in futility.
I think Nigerians should stand up now.
When we are still having how many budgets we're running concurrently?
Let us review this 2026, 2025. Let's go back, because it's obvious. Remember what we noticed in some of the budgets. Some things are just repetitive. They just
it's copy and paste.
It's copy and paste. And I beg to state clearly that if you see the IPCs being fixated in the national budget, I don't call it a fake agency, and I'm going to say it here clearly.
Yeah, I mean,
it is not a fake agency.
By law.
It is a listed agency. It exists. Nobody should say it's fake. Because if it's fake, it will not make its way into the national budget.
The question is,
the national budget is sacrilegious.
It's not about it being fake. It's about the authority or the authorizing person or persons being, you know, that had no authority to give it. In response to that, Michael Zeus on YouTube says, the Prince Adeyemi PFIPC may not be fake after all. There's allegedly high-level collaboration between lawmakers and the executive to loot and impoverish hapless Nigerian masses who in turn applaud them. Chooks Danny says, Nigeria is a cruise. The national budget is a table of chop-chop. Corruption is farmed internationally, intentionally rather, in Nigeria. Moke Chukwemeka also says, I only laugh. But what would not be surprising is that the APC will see nothing wrong with this. They will defend this. He goes on to say, Olive, waiting for a response from the government is like waiting for Tinubu to fight corruption. Many irregularities in the budget that are after a while, after a whole of us shouting, it dies down and we move on. And Michael Zeus says the federal government, FG budget, that's federal government budget, since Tinubu is opaque with endless implementation. I have never seen this level of lack of accountability with trillions allegedly missing. Even Almajiri now construct roads.
This is the height. That's why you wonder, one person, a former Attorney General of the Federation, you see just one person owning properties that on a good day, if you sell those properties, had invested the budget or the money back into the system, no Nigerian would say
Accountant General
working hospital. The doctors are continuously going on strike because they're not being paid. Where are the monies? So anytime Nigerians should ask, in short, as a journalist, we know this, because whenever we say, where's the money? We can't see where the money is, but the level at which this is being done, it is, goodness gracious. Goodness gracious.
It's an insult to Nigerians. And I mean, my last take in all of this is that our representatives, senators, members of the House of Representatives,
should we still call them representatives?
To represent us. How did you overlook this? So are you part of those who are padding and inserting some of this?
Which is why when we had
scrutiny is put into.
Which is why when we had Falls the bad guy on this show, he said that part of what he did was he called his representative, called him so much so that I think at some point he wasn't speaking his call. Why are you calling me? So if Nigerians are serious, everybody, you find your representative's contact, call them, ask them questions. If they knew that Nigerians are going to hold them, you know, hold them by the neck, hold them by the jugular, call them, demand questions, demand accountability from them, because you put them in there. You are the one paying their salary. It is your money that is paying their salary. So they're there to represent you and ensure that they look thoroughly. It's why they try to remove themselves from the liability of the PFIPC, saying that it's not their responsibility to accredit the, to check the validity of the heads of agencies.
Exactly. The Senate said they're not going to do it. The House of Reps started yesterday. They said they will do it. So they invited, we're going to talk about that. They invited someone that works closely, of course, with the presidency, and she came to give an account that the office of the PFIPC was the office that belonged to the Secretary General of the Federation. How did that office now transfer to
office of the
and she
Secretary
said yes.
to the Government?
She said yes. That's the office of the yes. And then she made. There's a lot. We're going to talk about that on today's show. But the point is, how many more listed items on Nigeria's fiscal, or you could say budget, annual budget, is actually true?
All right. And that really is the biggest, one of the biggest challenges that we have. But let's take reactions on X. And then you can keep your comments coming on YouTube as well. We'll take some more comments via New Central TV Live. On X, Hade says, renovation of churches and mosques scare. I be make them renovate all the primary health cares. I beg now. Please now, federal government, see where we are begging governments to do their job. Next tweet says,
see the state of this
Nigerians have proven that they love religion a lot, and their love for their spiritual purpose supersedes anything else. So I don't see what's wrong in your government putting your money in the thing you love the most. According to legendary...
Really?
Religion is winning.
Sarcastic.
What about shrines, sir? Okay,
It's true.
Okay,
All gays and wines.
They should come out.
Yes.
Wale Machirano says, I refuse to believe this is real. No, now, it can't be this bad. Well, budget has brought out information and evidence. Shall we don't get federal church and mosque?
As in, it's shocking.
Well, we probably do.
Which parties do the churches and mosques?
But won't allocate money to build schools, hospitals, good roads, and fix power supply. Nigeria is backwards, Ekom Safari says. And these are the tweets.
Priorities.
Priorities are gone.
On YouTube, Nenjisan asks, please, did the churches and mosques ask the government for renovations and building funds?
Answer, no.
And then Mokin Chukwuemeka says, and when you check, this money will be appropriated, it will be paid, but the important ministries will not get funding. Frank Obute says, all this padding
come back
is what they
and
call
repeat the
strategy.
same exercise.
Same exercise.
So we got 10% of our capital component.
It's coming. It will come again.
You know, Joe was right. Let's just
stop. Just pause on presenting any other. The president should. If the let me say it here. If President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, if he knows that, okay, I'm not aware, he himself, I think there should be a fake meeting where they have to really focus. There's a lot to focus on.
But there's a whole Ministry of Budget and National Planning also.
Let's focus on it. Guys,
I think that's where, because the truth is, I'm not holding brief for the president, but the truth is everything cannot go back. It's not the president that is approving the budget.
Olive, that's why I'm saying that. He presented it. You know what? Let's say the way
they worked on it and
they're not making the president look good.
They are not. So what? The only thing there is that the president needs to fire some people.
He needs to
replace certain people.
And say, come, you guys have put me in a bad spot. First of all, there's a listed ministry. You didn't tell me about it. You put it in the budget that I took to present to National Assembly. There's also money you used for Amajiri. You said you want to construct.
Who is in charge? All of you.
Come outside. Come now.
Wait, I need to read this comment as we wrap up. Ogenetega says, nothing we no go see for our budget. One day, I hope say we no go see budget for New Central Breakfast.
I hope so. Because I won't be. It won't be here. Don't worry, it won't happen. It's not New Central. Maybe it can be another channel, but not New Central. All
right, let's share with you what the top stories today are on Breakfast Central. This morning, federal government intervenes in marketers versus Dangote dollar row. It's getting tougher. Nigeria's high-profile corruption cases will be x-rayed this morning, such as Malami, Idris, Emefiele, and the likes. ICPC probes Gbajabiamila. The PFIPC conversation still continues. Gbajagate isn't dying. Badejo-Okusanya gets certificate of return. Today we'll be joined by Adeyemi Akangbe, SAN, who will be speaking about the elections by the NBA. And the newspaper front pages will also be reviewed. Stay with us for all these and more.
Fresh uncertainty has gripped Nigeria's downstream petroleum sector following the temporary suspension of petrol loading at the Dangote Refinery, disrupting product lifting by independent marketers and raising fresh concerns over fuel pricing and market stability.
The development has prompted the federal government to open fresh discussions with the Dangote Refinery amid growing concerns over petrol pricing, the refinery's dollar-denominated sales framework, and uncertainty surrounding the landed cost of imported fuel. While the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, insists there is no fuel scarcity and has urged Nigerians against panic buying. Many are watching closely to see whether government intervention will restore market confidence and prevent another increase in pump prices. Now, joining us this morning is Chinedu Ukadike, the National Publicity Secretary of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN. He joins us to help us understand what this means for marketers, consumers, and the country's energy market. Mr. Ukadike, thank you very much and welcome to Breakfast Central again.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ukadike. I look forward to the day when we have you to talk about the good news. It always seems like, how price of petrol has reduced. It feels like every time we have to have this conversation, once I see your face, my heart is cutting. Let's begin with the latest situation. I'll refer to IPMAN's statement. IPMAN is saying that there is no fuel scarcity, urging Nigerians to buy. But that's not the reality a number of people had experienced. My colleague was talking about at the start of the show how as at yesterday, a number of filling stations, and I saw some of them, had stopped selling petrol, and that as at this morning, the price of petrol has increased. So what we're seeing is different from what IPMAN is saying.
Well, that is a reaction of the markets. Once there is a shortfall in supply, it's not that IPMAN stops selling. When there is shortfalls in supply and there is high demand, you also find that it will affect some of the filling stations. If marketers are very skeptical about the price volatility, they will also be careful about, going to buy petroleum products from the depots, so that the price volatility will not definitely affect them. Marketers have lost money recently and in the past years in terms of speculation, buying petroleum products within this kind of crisis period. So this have taught them a lot of lessons, and the marketers are now buying products in line. People should not panic. Most of these depots, when there is a price increase or price decrease, they normally shut down their depot to be able to adjust the accounting department, so that if you have top-up, what I mean by top-up, if the money you paid for your ticket is lower, you will now add more money to be able to buy it at a realistic price, the price they have pegged it at that particular point in time. Then while if there is a decrease in petroleum product, they will say allow you to stay, come and load your tickets. Even at the old price you have bought it, they don't do refund, they don't do reimbursement or any other thing. So these are the things marketers has been suffering, and marketers have been very, very wary of the past months, what price volatility have done to them. They have lost billions of naira in terms of trying to cushion the effect of demand and supply and price volatility. So that is the coma we are now. And I know that within a short period of time, this thing will be handled by the authorities.
Okay, so we want to get clarity on this, Mr. Ukadike. This morning, the petrol price actually increased from 118 naira to 1,000, I beg your pardon, 1,118 to 1,280 naira. Are Nigerians going to experience an increase in fuel price immediately? Or is it just panic buying or panic selling? Let me put it that way, especially from the marketers, for fear of not being able to get a cheaper price at the gantry from Dangote.
Yeah, the factors of demand and supply determine price. Now that the product has hot and there is a possible increase, I read through the newspaper, although not yet confirmed, that based on those who bought petroleum products, who imported petroleum product, the petroleum product will be pegged at 1,350 naira because of the cost of the product at Transfigura, that's Eslome. So this kind of policies and informations can also trigger the high price of petroleum product and make commuters go into panic buying. And once there is panic buying and panic supply, there will also be panic demand. So people who are also looking at 1,350 naira as a cost of buying petroleum product as speculated by those who are importing petroleum product. It will make the marketers, wary, and also want to see how they can be able to, mark up their supply, their demand funds, so that they can be able to buy petroleum product or load from any depot once this price is set. So for now, things are still in akimbo, and we're still watching the Presidential Committee on Crude Oil and Dangote and also other depot owners. Definitely, I want to make it clear today that some of the depot owners have also increased their pump price from what we usually used to buy to 1,250 naira. So if they have increased from 1,150, 1,180, then and they have taken it to 1,250 to 1,700, as I'm talking to you right now, then it means that convertedly, in the independent marketers at their pumps will also be able to top up that differences as quickly as possible, so that it will cushion the effect of their loss.
Now, Chief Ukadike, the Dangote Refinery recently made an announcement that their products will be sold in dollars. What's IPMAN's position on that and the implication for ordinary Nigerians?
Yeah, if you look at the statement issued by IPMAN, we are still appealing to federal government and especially the Presidential Committee on Crude Oil to continue to give crude oil to Dangote in Naira. You remember vividly, we were the front runner and the proponent of asking Mr. President to ensure that Dangote has enough of crude oil, and also this crude oil being sold to him in Naira, so that we that are trading in Nigerian markets and we are trading with Naira can be able to buy this product in Naira. The issue of exchange rate is another way of increasing petroleum products indirectly. Once exchange rate is now, once we are buying in dollar, it also means that we have to do exchange. And once we do exchange, the cost of the money will also be added to the petroleum pump price. So we are still appealing to federal government, the Presidential Committee on Crude Oil, to sustain this local refinery we have, this Dangote local refinery. One thing is very, very clear. Since the fight in the Strait of Hormuz, we have never fall short of supply of petroleum products. You can bear with me, even during the Muslim festive period and Christian festive period, where we normally used to have shortfall of petroleum product, we have never had shortfall of petroleum product. It means supply has been adequate. The problem we're having is price control based on the crude oil price at the international market, which also determine the local domestic market. So I also believe that the Presidential Committee should, as quickly as possible, intervene. And if they have reverted back to giving the Dangote crude oil in dollars, they should please quickly revert back to giving the Dangote crude oil in naira.
All right, thank you. I was going to ask you about the refinery's pricing model, because I saw that was one of the issues. But we understand that the federal government has now opened talks with Dangote Refinery. How has IPMAN, first of all, I think the first question is, has IPMAN been involved in these talks? And how has that been progressing? What are the outcomes that IPMAN is looking forward to seeing?
Very, very healthy conversation and very quick intervention by the federal government. It also shows that the government have the listening ear, because whatever is the outcome of that meeting will definitely have a very, very serious impact on our energy security and our economy in general. So that we are not involved. Actually, they have not invited us. Maybe it is a meeting between the federal government and Dangote as a private company and also a businessman. Maybe thereafter, the minister might be able to invite IPMAN to be able to take inputs from other stakeholders to see how they can be able to cushion the effects of this little trance in the oil and gas industry. But I'm very, very hopeful that Mr. President, who has a listening ear and who understands this business, because he's a businessman, And I also believe that it's an independent marketer should able to land this thing in trying to ensure that the little peace and tranquility in terms of supply of petroleum product as we had before, and which Dangote has been sustaining. Because even if all these people that are saying they are buying petroleum products all over the world, they are also importing petroleum products from Dangote. So if we have a good refinery like Dangote who has been sustaining us, we should try and see the little incentive that government can be able to give that local refinery to be able to encourage the local refinery. Not only Dangote, and other little modular refineries that are refining petroleum products in Nigeria. Because most of them, I have heard from them, they are complaining of lack of crude oil. And they are trying to source their crude oil from everywhere. We cannot be an oil-rich country, and at the end of the day, we can be able to supply crude oil. I don't want to say common crude oil that we are one of the largest producers in Africa. To our local refinery, trying to strangulate it. That is why most of the companies in Nigeria who has been thriving here in Nigeria and doing their business have left this country because of lack of government policies, the bad government policies and supply of amenities and support from the federal government. So I'm very, very hopeful that the Presidential Committee, seeing the cry outs of the masses and also the impact in the society, will do something very, very, very important or very, very, very crucial to be able to sustain this supply and the reduced price for volatility. Because if you look at it, the current market price at Transfigura, which is the plant price, is around 1,000 something, 1,700, around $1,775 per metric ton. Why the Dangote is selling 1,050 something? So I don't know how when you import this product, it will be cheaper than what Dangote is selling. So it's better that we consolidate on what we are doing, the supply of crude oil, and see how we can be able to bring down this price. No matter the tension at the Strait of Hormuz, no matter the international oil policy, Nigeria can be able to do this. Nigeria can be able to sustain it. Nigeria can be able to sustain all their local refineries and even make sure they are exporting refined petroleum products. If government has interest in that business, we can also make money from it. All
right. Mr. Ukadike, thank you for telling us. We will continue to track these conversations, and we do hope that your explanation of these things in terms of the pricing at the pump, at the filling stations, we see the reflection. Because Nigerians, beyond all the rhetorics of what we're saying, they just don't want to buy expensive fuel. They want to be able to go buy petrol, find that it's available, and it's not ridiculously priced. So I think that we hope that that's something that we can see this week at the different filling stations. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. There is no need of giving all these licenses to hit up, license of importation to hit up the politics of supply of petroleum products in this country. There is no need. But I also believe that I'll come back to this studio to give Nigeria the good news at the end of the meeting.
We look forward to that. Thank you for your time.
Tired.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right. Let's move on now to let you know about the latest news concerning the NBA. President-elect of the Nigerian Bar Association, Oyinkansola Badejo-Okusanya, has pledged to make electoral reforms a top priority of administration following her election as the 33rd president of the professional body. Badejo-Okusanya, who spoke to journalists shortly after receiving a certificate of return alongside other newly elected national officers, said that electoral reforms had become imperative due to the narratives that have trailed the Nigerian Bar Association's elections, both past and present. Earlier, the chairman of the Electoral Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association, while addressing the newly elected officers, says that the names and phone numbers of lawyers who participated in the election will be published. Well, let's take a look.
We all need to sit down together, call it a referendum, call it a discussion amongst members. We must have an honest conversation about how our elections should go going forward, because any election that keeps on raising the same dust from every election cycle is not healthy for the growth of any association. So I will certainly be making electoral reform a priority.
So in line with the constitution too, we make sure that within 12 hours of the announcement, within 12 hours of the close of polls, as we publish branch by branch of the names, redacted phone numbers and SCA numbers of those who cast their votes.
All right, let's just inform you that in the course of Breakfast Central, I've been trying to reach the president-elect, but yesterday we did speak to the current president, and hopefully later on today we'll be having one of the candidates, you could say, who participated in that election. So it's going to be loaded. We'll look at the Nigerian Bar Association and what it means for Nigeria as it stands. Yes,
exactly. And we'll also be bringing one of the contestants, one of the candidates at the just concluded elections, Yemi Akangbe. He will be joining us to speak about the elections. A lot of statements were made by him. These statements were countered by Afam Osigwe SAN. So we'll have Mr. Yemi Akangbe SAN to come here and explain exactly what happened, his thoughts about the elections, what the way forward for the NBA is, and he'll be joining us this morning. So stay tuned to hear from him. But now let's tell you that the chairman of the House of Representatives Special Ad Hoc Committee on Constitution Review, Benjamin Kalu, has expressed confidence that President Bola Tinubu will swiftly assent to the state police bill once it is passed by the National Assembly. Kalu gave the assurance during the committee's meeting to consider the executive bill seeking to establish state police as part of the ongoing sixth alteration of the 1999 Constitution as amended. While acknowledging that the Senate has already considered and adopted the executive bill, including its amendments, he disclosed that the Senate's report will serve as the House Committee's working document during its clause-by-clause consideration.
Historically, that the House and the Senate are working in tandem with each other, to make sure that this significant amendment is achieved. And I am sure that with the speed of light, when it gets back to the executive, that is going to be assented to quickly. We must note also that Senate has already considered and adopted the executive bill, including certain amendments, and copies of this executive bill has been shared. As passed by the Senate, we have circulated that, and this particular document we have circulated will serve as the committee's working document.
Very interesting. Questions arise, and so many more questions concerning the state police. They've said, will it end insecurity? That's a question many percentage, if you look at it, of Nigerians have continued to ask. And there's also another question. Where are the civilians or the representatives from different parts of the country who they expect to join in looking at the state police bill? So there's a lot, but we'll talk about this incisively as we progress in the course of Breakfast Central. But let's bring to you a recap of some of the biggest stories we've talked about this morning here on Breakfast Central. This morning, federal government intervenes as marketers hold Dangote fuel loading over dollar row, and we've talked about it as well. So expect an increase in fuel price because there's in demand and less supply. NBA decides 2026. Badejo-Okusanya pledges electoral reforms, and we'll look at state police as well, like we've mentioned. But you just saw the speaker there, Benjamin Kalu, also talking about its progress. Let's tell you what's coming up next here on Breakfast Central. On Breakfast Central, we'll be looking at Nigeria's high-profile corruption cases, just like the one we talked about this morning. Not forgetting to ICPC probes, Gbajabiamila, and we'll look at reps looking into the situation, even though the Senate says they wouldn't talk about it. Stay with us.
You're welcome back. Nigeria in recent times has been gripped with high-profile corruption cases which have sparked concerns and debates about accountability and transparency in the system of governance. Now, at the center of these scandals are three powerful figures. The former Attorney General, Abubakar Malami, accused of leveraging his office to divert funds for personal purposes. The former Accountant General, Ahmed Idris, facing allegations of diverting over 80 billion naira through complex schemes. And the former CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, whose tenure is clouded by charges of financial impropriety, questionable policy decisions, and alleged abuse of office. These cases are not isolated as they represent the troubling intersection of law, finance in Nigeria's governance structure.
Beyond the headlines, these scandals raise urgent questions about the strength of Nigeria's anti-graft institutions, the independence of the judiciary, and the political will to prosecute corruption without fear or favor. Nigerians are increasingly skeptical. Why do prosecutions of powerful figures drag on endlessly? Why do plea bargains replace convictions? And what does this mean for the rule of law? Well, join us this morning on Breakfast Central for this all-important discussions. Legal practitioners Ibukun, Fasanmi, and principal attorney at Advocate Popular law firm Peter Ekavwo, as we confront the hard truths about whether Nigeria's justice system can truly hold its elites accountable. A warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good morning.
Now, I'd like to start off with Peter in the studio. What do you make of this, the Nigeria's anti-corruption fight? Is it, are we winning the battle? Because last week, the EFCC seems to be on a high. They secured $1 million property and other item forfeitures from one politically exposed individual and another individual that is a friend to a politically exposed individual, worth billions of naira. But ordinary Nigerians are wondering that, are you just going to seize those properties? Shouldn't there be consequences for bad behavior or some sort of punitive measure? Or is this just the beginning?
Well, thank you for having me. I want to believe that this is just the beginning. For the past months, EFCC has been having harvest of forfeitures.
A real harvest.
Real harvest. Humongous forfeitures, starting from Malami, the other lady, and we're talking of huge amounts of money. So I think we give it to them. They have made a lot of progress in that regard. Now, Section 17 of the Advanced Fee Fraud Act empowers EFCC to go to court and apply for the interim forfeiture and final forfeiture of assets that are suspected to be proceeds of crime. However, that does not stop criminal prosecution. So it's a civil forfeiture. So I want to believe that they will take the next step and also proceed to prosecution.
Well, the former Attorney General of the Federation has appealed this forfeiture. What does that, what's the implication of that?
As with all appeals, if he has a stay, if the court gives a stay of execution, so we'll wait until the court determines the appeal, then the process can go on. That's my view.
Okay, let's bring Ibukun into the conversation as well, asking the same question and getting your thoughts about Nigeria's anti-corruption fight. There are those who would argue that it's more rhetoric than reality and it's selective justice. But let's get your perspective on this.
Thank you.
Sure, please go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you at home. Yes, jumping on it just from where the guests in the house stopped. I think we must understand and commend the effort of the anti-graft agencies recently. You see, the truth of the matter is that the narration should be about how to change our laws to ensure that it gains some level of speed, just like we have it with election petitions in Nigeria. The issue of, we heard about the issue of state police and the way and manner the government is going about bringing it into tandem with what they intended, which is to have it everywhere, and the speed has gone through the National Assembly. Same energy should be brought into prosecution of crime and terrorism. I want to say that issue of corruption is even worse than terrorism, and I mean this. If you look at what EFCC is doing currently and on the issue of prosecution, you will understand that they are only doing the little they can. If you look at the judgment, the decision of the Supreme Court on Friday, which gave a final forfeiture in the case of Emefiele, you will understand that that took 19 months. That ordinarily shouldn't take that long, but that is what our law provides. And you must understand that even midway, the Court of Appeal had to set aside the order of forfeiture. So that will tell you that our litigation gives unusual latitude to people when it comes to issue of crime and prosecution of offenders. I am not saying anything about the propriety or otherwise of the issues in court. The matter is in court. I'm not going to talk about it. But when we are talking about corruption cases in Nigeria, we can go the China way. We can go the Singapore way. The idea that we have around it is easy. Once a person submits himself or herself to a public office, such person should know that you are now a subject of public scrutiny and you no longer have the right to do things your way. Don't forget that upon assumption of office, you have to submit yourself to code of conduct where you are going to assemble and chronicle all your assets. Then upon leaving the office, you are equally going to do the same. So it is ordinary for anyone to know that if what you have acquired during the tenure is beyond what ordinarily should have been acquired, you see, this law enforcement agency, they can do so on reasonable suspicion. So the truth of the matter is that what EFCC has done recently is commendable, particularly in the case of Malami, Emefiele, and Idris. We have to just commend them. And of course, regardless of how hectic our laws are, regardless of how hectic the situation is when it comes to litigation of cases of this nature, we still have to give them the kudos. They deserve their flowers.
Okay. You've talked about them doing very well. But let's look at the other aspect of this conversation. There are those who have been tagged to commit serious crimes in terms of, taking funds that belong to agencies. I'm going to mention a few names as we proceed. But we've seen them, rather than face prosecution like the others or the previous administration, rather they are purchasing forms. They are also vying for seats of elections, and they're looking forward to also run. I'm talking about the former governor of Delta State. We're talking about the former minister of aviation. Does this mean that we're seeing selective judgment, or is it because these ones belong to the incumbent, same political party? Let me start with you, then I'll come back to the studio to Peter.
Well, the truth is, we know, you see, a good student of history will know that Nigeria has a number of life-saving and life acts that one can take advantage of, particularly politics is one of them. And you must also understand that our criminal adjudication system has been so much watered down in some levels that people still take advantage of the system and the court to use and do whatever they want to do while still aspiring for office. We must come to a point. The point is, like I mentioned earlier, our administration of criminal justice must be retracked. Our criminal justice system requires a serious amendment. Amendment in the sense that the issue of criminal prosecution, particularly corruption and terrorism cases, should enjoy special courts and speedy trials like we have it in election petition tribunals. That is the only way out of the endemic that we are in. You see, the truth is, if a person is standing trial or is being investigated by an anti-graft agency, they know that this is something that even if the High Court gives a judgment, they will still go to Court of Appeal. After Court of Appeal, they go to Supreme Court. That alone is enough for them to buy form, campaign, win an election, and see how to water down the whole effect. So we must see to it that this issue of crime and corruption and terrorism everywhere is something that requires urgent national attention. And in that regard, the people at the heads of affairs, particularly the National Assembly, the presidency, must do something. If it is to pass an executive bill and also sponsor an executive bill to the National Assembly, that terrorism, corruption cases be handled the same way they handle criminal cases. Don't forget, handle election pension cases. Don't forget that issues related to advanced fraud and other related offenses, process of crime, recovery and management, and code of conduct, and all of those laws, they are clear. You are the one that will come and explain where you got your money from. You are the one to now explain. If somebody has said he has reasonably suspected you to have acquired a number of properties outside what you ordinarily should have acquired in office, it is the onus is on you to come forward and prove it. At the point of not being able to prove it, they have a right to charge you to court. At that point, it's something that should be done within 3 months. And that will end it. And in fact, the issue of punishment too would also send a very strong signal to the nation. Because if you know that you are convicted of corruption, you know you are facing death by hanging, nobody wants to do that. I tell people there is no point aspiring for public office if you want to acquire wealth. You are not under any law. If you are in your private estate or your private business, nobody is coming for you. But the moment you aspire for public office or you are appointed to a public office, you are a subject of public scrutiny. And everything you do is something that we all can raise questions against or for.
All right. So, okay, let me come back to Peter, because we have a lot to talk about. And Peter, I don't know what your take is on that question. Selective justice or not?
It will seem there's selective justice. But I also want to respond to the question you posed to my colleague over there, which is the fact that by our law, Section 36 of our Constitution presumes everyone innocent until convicted by a court of law. So, mere filing a charge against someone should not stop the person from being elected. It is the electorate. You know, we need to educate Nigerians. Nigerians seems to be so ignorant of these issues. The people that are corrupt, they live in the communities. Okay, so if you are corrupt, they know. Because when you go to court, you might even be corrupt and then you win your cases in court because of illegal technicalities. Yes, so what I'm trying to say is that the electorate should look at the people. They know those who are corrupt. So whether you win in court or not, I mean, so yes, on the issue of selective justice, it has been the norm since 1999. And my colleague talks about prosecution, punishment, and deterrent. But the question we should also ask ourselves is, has this mode of deterrent actually deter people from engaging in corruption? I want to suggest and propose this morning that we should add another layer. Apart from prosecution, I want to believe we should enact a law, something like we should have a national shame register and a national shame day. It should be a day that is in our Public Holiday Act, where Nigerians will, today is a shame day. What are we doing today? All those who have looted, who have been convicted, their names will be on that register online. It's digital. It should be something digital. Generations get upon.
Can go there and see.
They will go there and, in fact, I grew up in the village. If you want to marry a woman, where I come from, they will ask, which family do you want to marry from? They say, it's that family. They will start digging history. Do they have some strange diseases? Are they criminals? Are they thieves? You know, how do the men behave? How do the women behave? So by the time we go to this level I'm suggesting, people will begin to ask, that family, they are thieves, so they went to government and looted.
But the challenge with that is that a lot of public... Exactly, you can't shame the shameless. We don't trade in shame in Nigeria.
We cannot shame them.
I think this is
let's go on a break, actually.
We'll go on a break.
Yeah, we'll come back.
I mean, I want to talk about deterrence, because Africa and China did sing that, you know, a poor man that steals Maggie, they will show his face on crime fighters. And then these guys are still billions and they have plea bargaining and all of this. We'll look at that and more when we return from this break. Do stay with us.
Welcome to Breakfast Central. We're still discussing the corruption cases, the role that the law enforcement agencies have to play, and the legal angle to this conversation. Now, before we went on the break, I wanted to ask you about Section 36, subsection 5, which is the presumption of innocence. Now, the court has ruled that you can actually carry out a forfeiture before a conviction, which is what we're seeing, for example, in the case of Emefiele. But how do you juxtapose that vis-a-vis Section 36, subsection 5, which is the presumption of innocence that said, you know, innocent until proven guilty? Shouldn't, many would argue and push back and say, if you're already seasoned, you're already admitting my guilt.
Okay, so the same Section 36 empowers the National Assembly to enact a law to shift the burden of proof. Because what Section 36(5) does is to say, you are innocent, let the state prove the guilt and prove the... So that same section empowers the National Assembly to make a law to shift the burden of proof. So Section 17 of the Advanced Freeform Act now says the National Assembly, the EFCC, they have the powers now to, when they suspect your lifestyle, your homologous things that you have, they have the right to say, come and show us how you acquired this money. So in that sense, the burden of proof is not shifted to you to prove. So what they do is they file the application, interim, then they will now file a motion, they will file a motion on notice and serve it on you. So say, come and tell us how you acquired this wealth. And if you are not able to show those, how you acquire those wealth, the law says they can forfeit it. So it's a special provision, it's a unique provision under the Advanced Freeform Act that alters in a kind of way that Section 36, subsection 5, flowing from the powers given to the National Assembly under that same 36, Section 36, to make such a law. So it doesn't conflict at all. It's in furtherance, it's in furtherance of that power.
I'd like to bring Ibukun back into the conversation. Now, Ibukun, before we went on the break, I did speak a bit on deterrence, because if you look at Abubakar Malami's trajectory and his career, and if he didn't spend 1 naira of all the salary he earned, there's no way he'll be able to amass all those properties in less than a decade. So this does raise alarms about institutional guardrails. What makes it so easy for people in office to, to put their hands in the public kitty and enrich themselves to such stupendous levels? And this is not the first time we're seeing it, and even have the audacity to want to contest for public office. But on the other hand, I saw a video, I think it was in Onitsha or somewhere, when a poor man steals something, fruits, they make them eat it. They are very creative in making poor people pay for their crimes. They beat them, give them energy drink, beat them again. But we see that the elites, they get plea bargains, they seize some of your properties, you have the opportunity to even contest and appeal some of the seizures and forfeitures. Is there something fundamentally wrong with the system, that early warning systems and alarm bells don't go up until all this money is stolen?
Thank you. I think you've nailed it up. It is because of the system that we have, which accommodates a lot of laxes and latitude for people to either challenge, object, delay, and play these hide-and-seek games. You must understand something today, that my brother in the studio there mentioned the issue of Section 36 of 5, presumption of innocence. And also we must do what they call a cumulative reading of the Process of Crime and Recovery and Management Act, the Code of Conduct, and Advancing Fraud and other related offenses. That would give us a better understanding of how anti-graft agencies work. You see, the truth of the matter is that if someone has stolen this humongous wealth, I'm not talking about anybody in particular now, and the state has found such person to have reasonably, to have been suspected to have taken such money outside the legitimate income, they have a right to do so. And not just do so, they must do so to create a deterrence in the minds of Nigerians. I must, like I said earlier, I must commend the FCC at this point because of how far they've gone. But we need to do more. It is not, we should not leave things to Nigerians to take laws into their hands. Like somebody mentioned the Onitsha case and all of that. It is all out of pain that people go through. That is what takes them or leads them to such cruel or brutish decisions of taking laws into their hands. But in what we have today, I think we must understand that the system has to be recalibrated. And what do I mean? Our laws, particularly, you see, if you check that Constitution, Section 36 of 5, and if you check other laws, particularly those ones enacted recently, including those ones of 2022 under Buhari, while Malami was in office, you will understand that there was an intendment for that law, and that particular law is achieving its purpose now. Unfortunately, the persons who made it, one of them, is involved in all the issues that we are going through. But the truth of the matter is that we have left the matter for the court to decide the issue, the criminality or otherwise of the issues. But on the issue of forfeiture and the issue of prosecution to create deterrence, I feel strongly that we must do more and ensure that those loopholes in the Constitution and our laws must be blocked. And that will come by way of amendment. We must amend and also give criminal prosecution, corruption cases and terrorism cases some level of attention that will take it away outside what all of those hide-and-seek games can cure. Because if you look at it, if you check 100 last corruption cases in Nigeria, you see that most of them were delayed in court for years. Just imagine this forfeiture case. It took 19 months. 19 months because the order was given 1st of November 2024. Supreme Court affirmed the order 17th of July 2026. 19 months for just interim, just issue of forfeiture. We have not even talked about the case itself. Now, the case is in court. How long is that going to take? So we must understand that the system creates a lot of problems. The government and the people of Nigeria must rise up to cure that particular lapses so that we can have a very easy prosecution of crimes, corruption, and terrorism cases.
All right, we're almost out of time, but as quickly as possible, you spoke about loopholes and lacunas that need to be blocked. Are there loopholes in terms of ensuring that these assets that have been forfeited are not, are basically used transparently, that there's some measure of transparency? Because what we often worry about is that a looting or something gotten illegally will then be relooted, you know, when we hear all those monies returned. So are there legal mechanisms that are instituted to ensure the protection of these assets that are recovered and the transparency in the administration of same?
Yes, we have the Proceeds of Crime Recovery and Management Act 2022. And let me tell you, that's entirely a different kettle of fish. If upon a seizure, and the property has been forfeited to the federal government through the agency that attached it, the question of transparency, accountability has now left the court to that agency. If it is found that the agency is found wanting in that regard, of course, they bear the brunt. The onus is on them to show that they were transparent in the management, and also because we must understand something, that the purpose of the forfeiture is for it to be forfeited to the federal government. Federal government doesn't need the houses. What federal government needs is either the value. So, you know, in a way, there are so many mechanisms put in place to ensure and monitor that such recovered assets are not relooted. And I think, I'm not talking about the past, I think recently, particularly with some of the utterances of the current chairman of PFIPC, he has been, you know, matching his word with actions. And I think a lot of people are also watching. I know if issues of relooting had happened, by now people would have made a lot of noise about it. So for me, the issue of transparency of the asset recovered is a different kind of fish, and that is an onus on the agency. That agency will explain to Nigerians the same way people are talking about the people answering corruption cases today. That agency and the head will also come forward and explain. And if they are found wanting, they equally be found to have been corrupt. But I don't think that is the case yet.
Okay. Let's wrap things up because we're out of time. Let's come back to the studio. Do we intend to see an end? Cases being closed immediately, because there seems to be, he has mentioned the delay. Do we hope to see an end? And why is there so much delay from the judiciary? There's a pile-up of cases.
Is this something the new NBA president can
should just
help to resolve?
If you're found wanting guilty, just take your, go and serve your term, and we move on to the next.
I think we can begin to encourage maybe plea bargain, for example, instead of going through the whole hog of trial. You understand? Plea bargain does not mean the person will not go to prison. He can also go to prison, okay? Maybe for the term and all that. But the truth of the matter is that the judiciary is overwhelmed. And with the level of corruption, the incessant corruption in the system, we have few judges. What can they really do? So I think, like my colleague said, there will be need to maybe establish some special courts, assign some judges to take on those cases, and because it's criminal prosecution. At the end of the day, someone's right will be breached. We also do not want that the system is overrushed, because you can also accuse people wrongly. Politicians can also accuse fellow politicians wrongly, sure, and then trump up charges, and then just to mess people up. So we have to balance it. We have to balance it, create a new court. And the most important thing, let us educate the Nigerian people to hate corruption. Because since we like corruption, it seems the Nigerian people like corruption. How do we treat our leaders who are corrupt? We honor them. We honor them. We adore them in churches, everywhere. Yeah. We honor them. So no matter what you do, is it not prison? They will go to prison and come back. They continue their shenanigans. So I think it's a whole of society approach. Right. I believe if we do so, we'll get there.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having conversations with you, and thank you very much, Ibukun, for joining us virtually as well. We do look forward to connecting with you again, and hopefully by this time we're seeing an end to some of these cases that have gone on in endless circles. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
All right, let's go on a break now. When we return, we do have another conversation. Gbajabiamila is still a conversation to look at, and we will look at it after this break. The head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Esther Wilson-Jack, has admitted that her office failed to properly verify documents submitted by the controversial Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, PFIPC, allowing requests from the agency to be processed without detecting its allegedly fake enabling act. She maintained that her office neither allocated office space nor deployed staff to the council, despite the PFIPC operating from an office officially assigned to the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, OSGF.
While there is speculation that the Council occupied office space in the Federal Secretariat, Phase 3, we can state categorically that the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation did not allocate any office space to the PEAC PFICP. The office space indicated as the Council's physical address in the Federal Secretariat Phase 3 is part of the office spaces allocated to the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, vid letter dated 16th November 2023, to reallocate as they deem fit for the use of the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and presidential aides.
She has equally given us evidence of allocation of that office to Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation is annexed here. So it's left for us to include invitation to the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation to come. We will present him with the evidence that this there was an approval given to you in 2003 for an office space. How comes that the office space given to the office, your office, is being allocated to an agency under custom?
The Central Bank of Nigeria has also confirmed it opened 2 foreign currency accounts for the PFIPC on the directive of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, but said the accounts were never funded or used. Meanwhile, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has questioned Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, over allegations by the PFIPC Director General Adeyemi that he paid 400 million naira to secure his appointment and was asked to surrender 48% of the agency's proposed 27.3 billion naira takeoff grant. Gbajabiamila has denied the allegations, cooperated with the investigators, and filed a 15 billion defamation suit against Adeyemi. The House of Representatives has also summoned several top government officials as investigations into the PFIPC scandal continues. Join us this morning to discuss this ongoing case as public affairs analyst, Dotun Ojon. Well, welcome to you, Dotun Ojon.
Good morning.
It seems that all hands are on deck to unravel this. And I mean, we have to give kudos to the House of Representatives, even though President Tinubu has expressly given a directive to the ICPC to investigate this. They're doing investigations on your own part. What do you make of the revelations by the head of civil service? Does that absolve them of any responsibility?
Good morning again, and thank you. And I would like us to start this morning, before coming to your question, with the scope of the presidential directive. The first is the provenance and use of force official document. The second one is how official recognition or diplomatic support was sought and obtained by the Commission. The third is the opening and operation of bank account. About 34 accounts were allegedly linked to him. Number 4 is the source of and movement of funds. And the last one, which is number 5, is to identify weaknesses in government procedures that were exploited and recommend fixes. And I think that's the most important part of this entire conversation. You see, over the years, there's what they call traditionalism in government. This is how we do it. And when times move, government processes don't move. So it always allows for space and opportunities that criminals can actually exploit. And sometimes these loopholes are actually created deliberately to favor people in government. So that at the end of the day, I have an opportunity. Have you ever asked yourself when they do what they call audit, salary audit in state government and even in the federal government? And at the end of the day, you are hearing that they discover 4,000 ghost workers. These are the loopholes that are deliberately created by people in government, usually a participation between the civil servants and the political office holders.
There's
to actually find, yes, collaboration, to actually find food for the boys. And when they leave office, usually they don't get to close these loopholes. So you just need to have an understanding of how government works for you to be able to take advantage of that. But of course, like you have mentioned, fantastic. In fact, one of the failures of government will have also been that the ICPC, for example, is waiting for a presidential directive before an investigation is begun. So that tells you that these are some of the loopholes. And to the praise of ICPC, last year alone, I think they got about 261 requests for investigation, what the petitions. And they were able to investigate a few of them, I think 61 of them, and they brought about 55.5% of those cases to court, and they were able to win. If you did not wait for a presidential directive to investigate ordinary Nigeria, you don't need to wait for a presidential directive. When this issue happened, this is one of the biggest embarrassments that has come to this government. And I sincerely like the way the government is actually coming about it. There are doubts here and there, but with the way the government is handling it now, I so believe that something tangible will come out of it and perhaps will serve as deterrent to people who play this kind of game in government.
There's a lot to talk about here. But when we see the situation currently, the alleged or the embattled DG, we see the way he was treated, how he had to sit on the floor. Another video emerged where he was happily walking majestically to board a private jet to where he was taken to, which many have said he was taken to Abuja for further investigation. What do you make of the fact that his own side of the story is being spotlighted more, whereas those who have been fingered to be part of it, we seem to hear very little until yesterday that the ICPC invited Gbajabiamila for questioning. Is it a balanced case that we're seeing now?
The possibility of a balance in a case like this is extremely very low, because what you would call balance would be totally different from what another person would call a balance. For example, this man had made a very, very clear allegation. Oh, there were people in government. Though he had come back to say, oh, I didn't speak with the chief of staff, I didn't have any conversation. But with my Abuja experience, and I need to lay emphasis on that, there are games like this in Abuja that are being played. Some of them, they are in the habit of, you know, in an organization, somebody can just come, oh, I know the DG and all of that. We have all of these games in Abuja that are being played. And I can mention one or two people who also were victim of, oh, I'm looking for appointment. In fact, in some cases, they stay in Abuja Hotel. Maybe my friend will be listening to me now. They stay in Abuja Hotel waiting for appointment, and they incur all manner of debts because they are waiting. And in the process of waiting, if you have somebody who comes to you and tells you that, oh, I can speak with somebody, you may be willing to actually give out something at that point in time.
But what is so attractive about service that you will pay upwards of 400 million to secure an appointment? Are you not there to serve the people? Is there something else
if a politician,
in that office?
If a politician can
what sort of investment is it?
Okay, so if a politician can actually spend up to $1 billion to contest election and get a seat in the House of Representatives, then you will not blame somebody who wants to spend as much as 400 million to get appointment into an executive arm of government. You may want to paint it any way you want to paint it. Even the electorate, they know. In fact, let me tell you the principle of expectation in leadership. In Nigeria today, in our governance process, those who go there to cast their ballot, our people, they know they expect you to steal money. In fact, if you are a councillor, and I think I've told the story here before, if you are a councillor and after about 2-3 years into the government, you are yet to build a house, your community people will call you, your parents will call you and say, your time is going, oh, you have to do something. So our community expects our leader to take illegally from the national cake. And it doesn't matter how you paint it this morning. And that's why people go the extra mile to pay that kind of amount to secure an appointment, because they know that their life will not remain the same.
Is that also why vote buying is rife?
It is. It is. See, when people go to cast their ballot, they expect that their representative will not show up until the next election. So they are also saying that, how do we get our own portion of the national cake? And the only way they can get it expectedly is when they bill you for the ballot. And that's what gives birth to all kinds of corruption that you see in public office. So when people accuse their leaders of being corrupt, I just ask them a very simple question. What is your expectation ab initio?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Olive, this is what is called political crock-roll. You scratch your back, I scratch your back too.
Wow.
You need to buy Nick's. You need to buy Nick's.
But still talking about the PFIPC and, you know, the scandal that this is, are you, the level of attention that it has gotten and the reaction from the presidency, is that something you're pleased with?
Okay, so the reaction of the presidency, let me speak from the community perspective. And when I'm speaking from the community perspective, I'm speaking from also Adeyemi perspective, because he had come out to say,
Prince, please.
Yeah, oh, Prince Adeyemi is the people have denied him.
They say he's not a prince.
You are not privy to that.
Ordinary minister.
So let me speak from Adeyemi's perspective. He had come out to say that investigating the chief of staff is like the government investigating itself. So he's actually coming out to say, I do not believe that anything can actually come out from the ICPC investigation. But again, that's what the community people are also saying. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi, had also suggested that perhaps at the end of the day, nothing will come out of the investigation because of the role and the power that the chief of staff plays and wields in any kind of government. Now, having said that, I do not expect, because you are also playing in a very difficult political terrain. In Nigeria, if you've had such an experience, somebody can just wake up tomorrow and mention your name, Ma, because they know that if they get you, they will get at your principal. They can actually lie against you and say, oh, Olive actually did this, somebody did this, and all of that. So I have played in that terrain, and I know how difficult that terrain can be. The president also understands this. So what I'm personally expecting from him is what he has done. Let people investigate. And at the end of the day, he has put a timeline to this.
So the people,
within 30 days.
The ICPC, you agree with people, but the pushback against that is many would say that a party cannot be a judge in his own cause. And just like you rightfully mentioned, many consider the ICPC investigating the presidency just like the presidency investigating itself.
So they're both in the executive.
Exactly. So who would then be a better, or which body will be better fit or better suited to investigate this?
Okay, so we have a general collapse of belief in our system and our government.
Trust
yes, if you take this to court, people will still come out to say, we do not trust the court. And that's speaking from their experience. You can't judge nobody. Now, it is now the duty of the presidency. Don't ask me who is the presidency in this case. So it's now the duty of the presidency to try and prove that they are actually serious about what they are saying, that at the end of these 30 days, we are going to see the report, and everybody will have a clear understanding of what has happened. See,
so will you consider proof of seriousness this action taken by the government, where in the midst and in the thick of the scandal, the State Police Enforcement Committee was set up, and Femi Gbajabiamila was made to chair that committee? Would you consider that seriousness on the part of the presidency? Okay,
so some of those sensitive committees and all of that, I think, honestly, that it should have been excluded from those committees, so that you also come across to the people as being a serious kind of government. But what I'm saying in essence is that there are many possibilities in this case. I told you my experience in Abuja. I was in Abuja. I saw that people were actually trying to pay for appointments. Who they were paying to, I do not know. And I also know, I can tell you of a fact, that there are also people who have positioned themselves, they are jobless people, political jobbers, who have also positioned themselves to actually benefit from the desperation of politicians who want to get these things done. And it is so pronounced in this government. Do you know why it's so pronounced in this government? Because Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu comes across as somebody who is connected to a whole lot of people in the country. So now they have made him the president. I mean, APC has made him the president of Nigeria. Now, everybody wants, because if I scratch your back, like he said, everybody wants an appointment. And it's going to be exceedingly difficult, if not practically impossible, for the government to appoint everybody into a limited positions that they have. So it means that it has to be a survivor of the fittest. So at the end of the day, the seriousness of government will not be about sacking Gbajabiamila. But the seriousness can be, let's exclude him from some of these sensitive committee. within 30 days, nobody's going to die within 30 days. Then after 30 days, if they exonerate him, then we can now say, oh, the chief of staff is free, let him belong to any committee he wants to belong to.
Okay. We have a serious case in our hands, whether we like it or not. You have a question to ask?
Yes, I wanted to say there's a saying there, too many chefs
too many cooks called the broth.
Oh, too many cooks. I eat food that is made from chefs, sorry. We're different. There are levels to this. But
sorry about that.
Let me go on. Sorry for yourself, by the way. Okay, on a very serious note now. Mr. President is giving ICPC the marching order, 30 days, report back to me. At the same time, the House of Representatives, they're summoning people, interested parties in this, key witnesses, to talk. Is that no prejudice? Are they not modeling the waters? Because those people will be making public statements there that can indict or exonerate some of those key persons, persons of interest in this matter. So shouldn't we make it systemic? And do you also think the Senate, I mean, being an important body of law, should also do its own investigations to unravel what really happened, to prevent these sorts of things from happening in the future?
Okay, so we operate a bicameral kind of legislature. So it will be duplication if you now ask the Senate to do this. But of course, ICPC is not a court of law. And one of the reasons why the House of Reps investigation is extremely crucial and important is because a lot of people have said that ICPC as a body is somewhere linked to the executive. Now, what makes democracy democracy? It's not the court of law. What makes democracy democracy? It's not the president. What makes democracy democracy is the National Assembly and the state houses of assembly and the council and the local government.
People's representatives.
Yes, the people representatives. So if at the end of the day, you do not believe what your president is saying, you are supposed to believe what the House of Representatives is saying, because ideally it should be detached from the executive. So, and I think it's very important. Now we have 30 days. The ICPC will lay its report. Within a short period of time, the House of Representatives will be also pass its own report, and that is going to we do some comparison.
We're out of time, but what do you make of the fact that the Senate has said they don't want to, probe into the situation?
Yes, I think because the House of Reps already had the intention.
No.
Even before the House of Reps.
They said they were not going to.
There could be conversation. Actually, there could be conversation that has been had before all of these things came on board. Because now, if the Senate had actually done an investigation, I also see the House of Representatives still coming out to do investigation at this point. And at the end of the day, it will just be duplication. No.
Senator Yemi Adaramodu, whilst addressing journalists when this news broke out, they gave reasons for why the Senate will not be speaking on this. One, they said that the matter is sub judice, is already in court. Secondly, they spoke to the... Sorry?
He also spoke to Senator Wembley.
Yeah, but before then, they said the matter is sub judice, that it's already before the court. Then they also talked about the fact that they're not responsible for validating the heads of agencies.
So I remember now. Now, I can't tell why the Senate didn't want to do that. But
I've told you why.
Yes, the good thing, of course, they formed their opinion. I don't know the basis for that opinion. Now, but the good thing is that we now have the House of Representatives coming out to say, and if you look at our political history, including the investigation of power sector, including most of the most sensitive investigations that have been held in the floor of the National Assembly, it has always been the House of Representatives that has actually been leading this. So the good thing is that the House of Reps is coming out to say that we are investigating it. And at the end of the day, I also see this investigation putting ICPC on their toes. If they want to manipulate anything, now they know that
it's in the open, the information.
Okay, we'll wait and see how things stand. Fingers crossed. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you,
Mr.
Great to have you. All right, up next, we'll be joined by Lateef Akangbe, and as he joins us to speak to us about the controversy trailing the just concluded elections by the Nigerian Bar Association. He was, of course, one of the candidates at the elections, and we'll be hearing from him in a moment. Please stay with us.
Controversy continues to trail the Nigerian Bar Association NBA presidential election despite the emergence of Oyinkansola Badejo-Okusanya as president-elect, with prominent lawyers questioning the credibility of the process. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Jibrin Okutekpa, says he has lost confidence in the NBA, describing the election as a sham coronation. and alleging that the process was manipulated from start to finish to produce a predetermined outcome.
Earlier, a presidential candidate, Lateef Akangbe, SAN, had called for the suspension of the election, citing what he described as a catastrophic collapse of the e-voting platform, security breaches and irregularities, including inaccessible voting portals, changing to the authentication process, and the alleged omission of some candidates' photographs from the ballot. Now, addressing the controversies on our show yesterday was the current NBA president, Afam Osigwe, SAN, and this is what he had to say.
That message by Yemi very strange, and I wouldn't want to say he's telling a lie, but that does not represent what transpired. Yemi Akangbe reached out to me claiming that so many links were being circulated, and I forwarded the same to the CNBA and reverted to Yemi to say that the link he sent to me was a phishing link. That was not, and I sent him the official link from ECMBA, and I don't know where he's getting this idea of 5 different links. There were no 5 different links, there was only one link. And it's unfortunate if it is a portrayal, but if he insists, we would have to publish the screenshot conversation between Yemi Akangbe and I don't know if Yemi Akangbe voted or could not vote, or whether he chose not to vote. But in this period and time, propaganda walks around in broad daylight, and I will not be able, I don't want to comment about Yemi. I don't want to comment about it. And he also reached out to me to complain that I had over 4,000 young girls waiting to vote for me, him who could not vote. And I gave him a link of a technical person who could assist him. And I don't know what he wants. But from day one, Yemi Akangbe was among those who were criticizing everything, and nothing was good enough for him. I don't want to be dragged into this process. I only try to assist, and I complained to Yemi Akangbe that I was not ECMBA, that he shouldn't be reaching out to me, but he kept doing that. And to avoid a situation where I would be accused of indifference, I tried to do my best for Mr. Yemi Akangbe. But I reiterate that nobody sent Yemi Akangbe 5 different links, and I dare him to publish the 5 different links that we sent to him. I never did. Okay. And the only link I sent to him, I got from ECNBA. And I think he should stop sensationalizing this election. In that statement, he said that I was a purported winner of the 2024 election. Yemi thrives on such things, and I wouldn't want to respond to him further.
All right, a lot was said there by Mazi Afam Osigwe, SAN, the current NBA president, and we'll get the reactions and the response to this by the presidential candidate at the just concluded NBA election, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Lateef Akangbe, but he'll be speaking about this right after the break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Our guest today is a presidential candidate at the just concluded NBA elections. We have the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Lateef Akangbe. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Great to have you join us this morning.
Welcome.
Welcome. We're going in with a strong start. You saw the video by the current NBA president, Afam Osigwe. He's had a lot to say about you. We'd like you to respond to some of the statements that he had made. He was, of course, responding to your press statement regarding this and the video that you had released as well.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for doing what we lawyers call the alteram pattern, which is always hear the other side. So that's what you have done, to hear the other side, so that you can have a holistic view of the situation. Well, I heard Afam Osigwe, and he says that I was complaining from the get-go. What it calls complaint is an agitation to have a credible process. And let me give you context to this, how we started. We're coming from a position of trust deficit. Even his own election is still being challenged in court. The matter is in the Supreme Court now, where one of the contenders, the first runner-up, was asking for a post-audit of the election. He's saying, this election had been conducted, can we see the database? Let's see all the digital footprint. And the NBA said, no, you cannot see the digital footprint. You cannot see the database. You know, we'll give you a report. That's the best you can get, a report. Even though the Constitution says an audit should be allowed, it wasn't allowed. So that's where we're coming from. And even the previous election, the 2-3 cycles of election has either ended up in court, or there's been allegation of manipulation as regards the election. So leading up to that, we said, let's get it right this time around. Let's have a credible election. And what did we say? We engaged. I engaged the ECMB, and I said, you've gotten a service provider that, number one, nobody knows anything about him. It's a one-man business who wants to conduct an election of this magnitude. Nobody knows him without any track record of having done so before. that let's not do that. Why don't we look for a more credible service provider who has done something like this before? The agitation was there. You said no, you refused that, oh, lawyers are so proprietors, and yet they do millions of dollars of transaction, it shouldn't matter. And we said, listen, beyond that, this is a company that was inactive in the sense that for 6 previous years, it had not paid its annual returns at the CAC. So a company went from inactive to an active company, only paid their annual fees for 6 years, few hours to their appointment. And it says, you cannot have a fly-by-night company to conduct this sort of election. The agitation was everywhere, such that the Attorney General of Nigeria, not in his capacity of Attorney General now, but in his capacity as Chairman of the General Council of the Bar, together with the Chairman of the Board of Benchers, called us for a meeting few days to the election, saying, what are the issues? We tabled the issues. They said, I had proposed that let us use NIN. Every Nigerian has NIN on registration, and let that be the mode of authentication. Let nobody or no other person can get your NIN except you give it to them. As against what we used to have in the past, where emails could be intercepted, people could do all sorts of things, and the SCN number, the Supreme Court number of every lawyer, which is out there in the NBA, anybody could have access to anybody's SCN number. I say, what you have is porous. Let's have something credible. The Attorney General listened to us. We found a common ground between ourselves to say, let OTPs be sent to telephones and not emails, so that if it's sent to your phone, if you give it to someone else, you hand it over to someone else, but nobody else would have access to your phone. And that was what we agreed. And in light of that agreement, this was 2 days to the election, we agreed at the meeting that let us postpone the election for one week extra to sensitize members that your OTPs will come by telephone, you no longer come by emails, and let people be aware. We left the meeting. Our firm the next day called an emergency NEC meeting to report what had gone on in the Attorney General's meeting, saying, oh, the Attorney General, the state is trying to take over the NBA. The state is trying to interfere in the NBA. I said, it's not interference. It's intervention they were doing, not interference. Now, the election was meant for 20th. The ECMB brought it to the 18th. Nobody complained. Nobody said anything. It was brought forward. There was no NEC meeting. Now that they called for a 1 week, you then called NEC meeting to come and do your bidding, to say, oh, no, this election must go on. ECMB chairman said, we are ready, we're prepared. You're not ready, you're not prepared. He said, they're ready, they're prepared. And what happened? Within 30 minutes of going to the election, the server went down. Went down. They said it was a cyber attack, unverified claim. We agreed that each candidate will bring an expert to inspect the system, look at the admins, the program. Up to an hour before the election, the chairman of the ECMB was assuring me that the technical experts of each candidate will be there to do the inspection. None of that was done. They weren't even allowed to move next to the back end. They were told to stay away, just sit down and be looking. Now,
this is the report you got from your own experts.
Yes, absolutely. They weren't allowed to move the thing. So it came down within 30 minutes, and there was only unverified claims of an attack. So from 12 midnight until 7:35, at that point, I issued an interim report. I said, this company does not have the capacity to conduct this election. Postpone, suspend the election immediately. Suspend it. Members stayed up all night, young lawyers, old lawyers, because they were intent on voting. They wanted to cast their vote. At 7:35 in the morning, we were called, the election was going to commence. 7 in the morning, 7:35. And I said, why the rush? Now, the explanation was that it was attacked and they migrated to another system. Now, 2 things come from that. One, if you had a backup, why did it take you so long to migrate? 2, if you're building a new system, it would take you a lot more than 8 hours to do that. So what transpired? What happened in that? Now, when the system came up initially, we were saying free and fair election. The picture, my picture was not there. Akimboro's picture was not there. In fact, in addition, his name was even misspelled. It wasn't even his name. Immediately, I called the NBA president. I said, we want a free and fair election. What is fair in even the ballot paper, where one candidate has a picture there, the 2 other candidates don't have the pictures there? That can't be said to be fair. That's not equal playing field. He said, oh, he's so sorry. Oh, he complained. They said they didn't submit their picture. What do you mean I didn't submit my picture? But when it surfaced at 7:35, they found my picture. Where did they find it from? I don't even know. But going from they didn't submit their picture, you didn't have my picture there. They were correcting the errors. When the thing came up at 7:35, was there an inspection? by the IT people? Of course not. It just went on like that. I'm not saying anything, but to any fair-minded person who is discerning, reading between the lines and see, could you call that a credible election?
Now, Mr. Akangbe, you've listed a whole litany of issues pre and during the elections and post-elections that happened during the just concluded elections. Have you forwarded your protestations, or have you made them known to the ECMBA? And what are the next steps you're taking?
Immediately the system went down. At about 2:09 in the morning, I issued an interim report, sent it to the chairman of the ECMBA, sent to the president of the NBA, sent an email, official complaint that this election should be suspended. After that, I issued a press release during the election when I saw all the glitches and all that was happening. And post-election, there was a report that I sent, again, to all of them, telling them how I feel about the election, the outcome of the process, how the process went, and the complaints by the majority of our members, young lawyers, old lawyers. This was made available to the president, chairman of the ECMB, and to the public. So everybody know where I stand on this.
Okay, we're told that some lawyers have gone to the Federal High Court. They tried to get the courts to ask that they stop the swearing in. But it seems like that didn't hold sway. And we did see the swearing in of the incoming president. Does this mean that all complaints have fallen on deaf ears? And does it mean that everyone should just move on and just take what has happened, hook, line, and sinker?
Well, I also just heard about the Federal High Court matter. In fact, this morning, a friend of mine was just telling me that I was a respondent in that action. And I said, oh, wow, really? I wasn't even served. I'm not being served. I don't know anything about it. But the agitation of our members and the concern of our members is about the process of the election. If some people have gone to court, by the way, there's been no swearing in yet. What happened was a declaration of results.
Okay.
Swearing will happen much later in August. But in the circumstance, given what had happened, I've heard the president-elect come out and jubilate and talk about our emergence. But one thing I've not heard, which is of huge concern to me, is the fact that she has not acknowledged all the irregularities surrounding that election. She's kept mute as if all was well and good. Now, for me, that's a red flag. Why do I say that? They say if you ain't broke, you ain't fix it. That means she does not agree or think that anything is broken. Therefore, there will be no need to call for anything to be fixed. And my concern, my agitation is as to the system we're running, the process of election, the electoral process. It calls for reform. We need to revamp it. And it's someone that understands it and identifies it and acknowledges it, can look into the matter. So she's kept quiet. We've had a president in this country before, the late Yaradua, God bless his soul, who upon assuming office admitted, acknowledged that the process that brought us in was flawed. Even though we are, that's a statesman. I would have expected an acknowledgement. I read somewhere where they're saying even she could not vote, but she hasn't said it. Let her come out and say whether she was disenfranchised or not. Was she able to vote? I couldn't vote. Akimbodo couldn't vote. Majority of people couldn't vote. To make it, let me blow your mind. When we were calling for a postponement, sensitized members for 1 week, ECMBA said, no, we're not good, we're ready. On the day of election, many young lawyers, especially 2025 call, were telling me, I had so many of them, more than 4,000 of them, my supporters, telling me they couldn't vote, they were disenfranchised. I called the NBA president and he said to me, oh yes, there's a problem. When they were called to the bar, they used the exam number, they needed to go and get an SCN number from the Supreme Court. It takes a while to do this. Oh, please, call someone in the ICT department and we'll sort them out. I'm saying a whole class, 2025.
What?
You're saying that I should call the ICT to tell me how to sort them out. What happened to that 1 week postponement to sensitize them and inform them? They're saying some of them could use their exam number to vote, not SCN number. And I say, who disenfranchises a whole class of the NBA who have paid their BPF to you? You've collected their money, yet they can't exercise the right on who should lead them for the next 2 years. And you told me that, oh, the ICT will sort out for them. Who happened to put in a message out there before the election for them to know that you're going to vote with your exam number and not your SCN number? And some of them said they voted using the exam number. Some didn't even know. So it was a clear case of disenfranchisement across board. Who does that to your entire class? And you said to me that there were links sent to me. I said to you, I said in my press release, I said, about between the president and the chairman of the CMBA, about 3 or 4 links were sent to me. There was more than one link. It's on my phone. The first thing, I had situation rooms set up across the 144 branches of the Nigerian Bar Association. And the people were calling me to tell me, we can't vote, and this is the link. And the report came to me that there was an unofficial link. And immediately I contacted the president of the MBA to tell him, he's my friend. I called him. I said, what is going on here? There's an unofficial link. He said, send it to me. I sent it to him. And he responded to me immediately. He said, oh, no, that is not the official link. This is the official link. Sent it to me. After a while, when I complained to him, I couldn't vote. He sent me another link, which was different from the first one he sent to me. How can one election have 2 links? How can one election for the same office have 2? I contacted the chairman of the ECMBA towards the end of the day because members were calling me. I was tired of phone calls about how they cannot vote. I contacted the chairman of the CMBA. He sent me 2 links as well. So I'm saying I have 4 links. 2, one from the MBA president, which was one from the other one.
Right. Well, I wish that we can have, maybe we'll get to, before we wrap up, try to see if we can have a look at those links, because he was very hell-bent on speaking about the multiplicity of links. But beyond that, another thing that has come into the conversation is we've seen a number of young lawyers who have argued that the president-elect has not acknowledged the flaw, which is also a sentiment that you shared as well, that she hasn't acknowledged the flaw in the system. If she has, or if she had acknowledged the flaw in the system, would that be enough for you?
So the thing is this, I wouldn't, as a person, as a lawyer, someone, a member of an association that's supposed to be the bastion of democracy, supposed to set standards for the Nigerian state to emulate. I wouldn't want this kind of election to throw me up. In her shoes, in the shoes of the ECMBA, she was a fair-minded person, and the president of the MBA, I'll be calling for a rerun today. Why would I be calling for a rerun? A rerun because I don't want that illegitimacy hanging over my administration. That under me, it wasn't a low turnout of voters. It's a world of difference between low turnout and disenfranchisement. People are saying, I want to vote, I cannot vote. So you don't even know, given the number of votes outside, more than 60,000, you don't even know whether you are the will of the people or not. You don't even know, you can't tell, because even for the second runner-up, who had 5,800 votes, he can well say that I had 30,000 votes out there, that if I'd come in, I would have won the election. You could very well say that. Is that the presidency you want? Given the fact that even the votes that came in, if you add up the votes that came in, it shows that the minority of the people wanted you there. The majority of the people don't want you there. That's what it means. So I would be calling for a rerun today, if I were in their shoes, to show people to test out and say, yes, I have the mandate of the majority of my people that I'm leading. That gives that validity, gives legitimacy to your presidency.
All right, before Gbenga asks his next question, I want to ask lawyers, if you're a lawyer watching and you're a part of the NBA elections, we're streaming live on YouTube, News Central TV Live. Please go there, drop a comment and let us know if you were able to vote or if you weren't able to vote, so we can get a sense of people who were disenfranchised during the election. So please head on to News Central TV Live on YouTube to drop your comment.
Now, Mr. Akangbe, it's safe to say that you haven't placed a congratulatory call to the president-elect. I mean, judging by what you've said so far.
Or are we assuming?
I'm assuming.
Maybe we should ask you.
Yes.
So, again, if I were in her shoes, I would be magnanimous in victory and reach out to the other candidates. That wasn't done. What I did, because she's my friend, was I placed a call to her. If I called her twice, she hasn't picked up. Now, I will give her benefit of doubt. Perhaps she didn't see the 2 calls. Perhaps she's basking in the euphoria of the victory and she hasn't had time. Perhaps she'll reach out when, she's in the mood too. But I have reached out just to show you that for me, and I say it again, we're friends, we're members of the same association. I'm not bitter that she has emerged. My complaint, my concern is about the system, which we've always talked about, the electoral process. Let's fix the process. It needs to be fixed. Over the years, it's been the case. Now, this is the worst election conducted in the history of the NBA. And I wonder if the chairman of this NBA would be able to sleep when he gets home that night, because posterity will judge us all for what we do. I wonder how genuinely the NBA president feels right now, beyond coming to the TV to say this and say that. But nobody has come out. He hasn't said anything about disenfranchisement. Both of them haven't said anything.
Well, he has. Yesterday when we interviewed him, he did mention that, you know, he understands the perspective, but the challenges with the elections, and no election being perfect.
Main question was, I mean, by any standards, you did say that the NBA is the bastion of democracy. Many Nigerians look at you as one of the top professional bodies in Nigeria and hold you to high standards. And this is not just a one-off. In the last few electoral cycles, there's been one controversy or the other. And they say, what right do you have to criticize the political class when we see flaws in our electoral system, that even as a body, you're struggling to organize yourselves? What does that do to the reputation of the NBA, and why these challenges? Why haven't you been able to overcome them after all these years?
You know, for me, it breaks my heart that we're having to do this, washing our dirty linen outside. It breaks my heart. But this problem we're talking about, even if you acknowledged the glitches and the disenfranchisement, it was a self-inflicted problem. Because we warned you that this company has no capacity to take on this undertaking. There's no capacity, no proven record. So what sort of company, a service provider, whose system goes down the first 15 minutes of an election of this magnitude? If you had listened and you had taken a step backward, take a deep breath, look at the situation and say, there may be some, they might be making sense.
Right.
You know, and let's look inward. Let's sort this thing out. What we're asking for is that get two reputable firms, foreign firms that have taken this sort of assignment before, and get two of the 4 accounting firms in Nigeria, 2 of the big 4, to audit the process pre and post. That way, I wonder how any fair-minded person, objective person, would object to such a process.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll wait to hear any further updates or details. Like we said, you were also not aware that some members have gone to the Federal High Court. Let's see where this would lead. And you've also said that it's going to happen in August, the swearing in. Maybe between now and then, we're sure developments will indeed come up.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at some of the front pages of the newspapers. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Let's go straight to the front pages of the newspapers. We're going to run through about 2 of them, or 3 very quickly, but we have joining us this morning, publisher of the niche newspaper, Mr. Ikechukwu. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Morning, Mr. Amechi.
Permit us to go straight into it because of our time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to have you.
We'll start off first with the Guardian newspaper. Let's start with the Guardian and take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Then we'll take Al Jazeera and then take one more. Okay, Guardian, very quickly. ICPC quizzes Gbajabiamila as House summons key agencies over lapses. That's a major story on the front page of the Guardian. Group sues Umai, IGP and others over Habila's death. I think we'll focus on those 2 stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. That seems to be one of the biggest stories there. Another one, quickly. Kwankwaso confirms single-term pact with Obi, queries APC's Muslim ticket. That's another one. Let's go straight to Al Jazeera and take one big story or 2 and then take the other one. This was as a going. Troops snap Sudanese. 3 ISWAP collaborators. That's one of the biggest stories there. Police probe 4 personnel over extortion. We're going to look at this story later on, maybe tomorrow. They were extorting an ICPC chairman. They did not know. And
that's bushmeat and hunter situation.
Again, let's see another story. We're taking 3 stories apiece. The court rejects Ned Nwoko's suit challenging Okowa's senatorial candidacy. That's what you get on the front page of Al Jazeera. And our final newspaper this morning, Let's take a look at the last newspaper this morning, and let's see what stories we can get from there. Observer's Time says Orire teachers were beheaded to force Ansaru chief's freedom, according to DSS. Let's pause there. I think we'll start off with the very first story. ICPC quizzing Chief of Staff.
Well, it is the next logical step to take, since they were mandated by the president to probe the circumstances surrounding the so-called fake agency. So they have done what they should do, which is to invite the Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, who is at the center of all this controversy. At the same time, while ICPC is probing, the House of Representatives also opened another flank of the probe yesterday. And that is even the one that is very interesting to me, because the CBN testified yesterday at the House of Representatives. And what did they say? They said, yes, that the CBN actually opened two domiciliary accounts for the so-called fake agency, one in pound sterling, the other one in dollars. And that they opened the two accounts based on the mandate from the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. And that's the process that is taken by the CBN in opening such an account, that there has to be a mandate from the Office of the Accountant General, which was duly delivered sometime last year, I think in May. Also, they said it was May 29th or so. So they got the mandate, and they said they verified to make sure that that mandate actually came from the Office of the Accountant General. And having verified, of course, they couldn't have opened the account without verifying that the mandate came from the Office of the Accountant General. So what we have to wait for now is to say, Accountant General, who gave you the instruction to also open this account? I think we are going to open a Pandora box. At the end of the day, this case, if sincerely and thoroughly investigated, we may begin to get to know how things run in Nigeria, how we got to the mess we are in right now, because this is a mess. Don't forget that the so-called middleman, Taminola,
the late man,
also died. And there is now a new information that even the hotel
has been
demolished. So who gave
Coroner's inquest?
Who gave all these instructions? And that's where we are. Let us continue probing. Hopefully, if the ICPC is going to do a diligent and honest probe, we may get somewhere. If the House of Representatives, look, the issue now is not even who is guilty or who's not guilty. The main issue for me is to find out how things are run in this country, and if it leads to our correcting. Because, look, Joe, I have said here.
Mr. Amechi, before you go on, sorry to interrupt you. We have to go for a quick commercial break. We'll pick up from where you left off with the ICPC and the House of Representatives probing to this matter. Do stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly. You're welcome back. We're still looking at the front pages of the newspapers, and we have the publisher of the newspaper here with us, Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi. Before we went on that break, you were talking about the two flanks of this investigation. And my question to you is, won't there be some level of interference? And how far do you think the House of Reps can push, and the ICPC?
That is why I said in my initial remarks that I hope that the ICPC and even the House of Reps, that they will be diligent enough for the sake of this beleaguered country and do what is right. Whether there's going to be interference or not, many Nigerians already believe that the presidency has interfered. Don't forget, the DSS or the police was said to have investigated this particular case last year, and they completely exonerated Femi Gbajabiamila. They arrested Prince...
Mr. Now. They said they've investigated him to his village, and they said he's not a prince. So let's just leave him as ordinary Mr. Embattled Mr.
Okay. They arrested the Mr. Adeyemi, and of course, charged him to court. For a presidency that has completely exonerated one of their own, to now come out to say ICPC
should go
and investigate. A lot of people don't believe that there is any iota of altruism in what they are doing. But let's continue giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like I was now saying before we went on break, look, there are some Nigerians, because we can believe anything in this country. There are some Nigerians that believe that because the so-called Director General of the agency is a world-renowned con artist, that
at chapel levels,
he is capable of
pulling it off
anything
alone.
So only one man, a private citizen, will wake up and contrive all this web of intrigues and con the entire Nigerian system, from the executive to the legislature and everybody. Some Nigerians still believe that it is possible. I don't think it is possible.
It will take some Einstein level of genius to pull that off.
But let us wait and see how far this probe can go. But there are telltale signs there. Like I said earlier, the only man Adeyemi is talking about, who was his middle person between him. Don't forget, the man has said that he has never met
before.
Yes.
Gbajabiamila before.
All right.
So it is this middleman. Unfortunately, the middleman has died in very mysterious circumstances. And even the hotel where they said
he died
has been pulled down.
That's really very
dead men tell.
I need us to quickly take this story because we're almost out of time. Observer Times, big story there. Orire teachers were beheaded to force Ansaru chief's freedom, according to the DSS. Imagine, that is what we're hearing. Secret Service moves to appeal life sentences for convicted terror leaders. Ex-CDS petitioning credits DSS with release of Oyo abductees.
You know, Olive, we have all praised our security forces for this rescue operation, because I think the last time I was here last week, that was the major thrust of
conversation.
And I'm not too sure there's any well-meaning Nigerian who has not come out to even thank the federal government for doing the needful for the first time. But, you know, when the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, who, by the way, also congratulated the military, congratulated all the security agencies, and even congratulated the president, but still said that there is need for an international, a UN-backed
body
probe. I said here last week that only Seyi Makinde will tell us what he is seeing.
Very true.
That we are not seeing. Look, there are some discordant tones that are emerging. One of the teachers that was released granted an interview. I read it somewhere.
It's Nigerian folks.
Where he said that the man that was beheaded was because he hid his phone when all others were asked to drop their phones. That Mr. Oyedeku did not drop his phone. So they discovered and they got angry. And they said they were going to teach him a lesson, that they were going to kill him for disobeying the orders of their leader.
Hi.
So, was he beheaded because of that, or was he beheaded in order to mount pressure on the government to accede to their request, which is release our leaders? Again, judgment was given, was it yesterday, where the people, the two Ansarudin leaders were given life sentence. The DSS is saying that it is going to appeal that judgment because the DSS is demanding death. Look, I've always been an advocate of saying that we should do away with the capital punishment. But there are circumstances where my worry is that when you carry out capital punishment, there is no remedy.
It's final.
And if, perchance, and we've seen it happen over and over and over again, some people who were not actually guilty, but they have been killed, So, but in circumstances where, for instance, the two Ansarudin leaders pleaded guilty.
Ansaru al-Islam.
Yes.
Ansarudin is different from...
Okay.
Yes.
Pleaded guilty. So, when people who kill fellow citizens so gruesomely, I believe that they deserve death.
All right.
It's not a question of life and sentence. I believe, and it will be in law, in tune with the Terrorism Act of, I think, 2022, which specifically says that if you kill in the process of this terror act, you deserve death sentence.
All right. We have to go now. Thank you, Mr. Amechi, for joining us. And to all the lawyers who've joined us, we can see the comments, a number of them sharing their perspective regarding the NBA elections. We hope to be able to reach out to Mrs. Badejo-Okusanya, the NBA president-elect, to see if she'll be willing to join us. We want to hear from all sides of the divide. But that's all that we have today. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow.